Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with the JP8 Report, episode 420. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the JP8 Report. Hope everybody had a great Father's Day weekend. I'll show it again. My daughter gave me this shirt yesterday. I like it. I like it a lot. It's really cool. That was really cool. I didn't expect that one. She lives at Fort Campbell now with her husband. But yeah, so thank you, Rose, one more time for the great shirt you gave me yesterday. That was cool. Let's get this thing started. All right. Welcome to the JP8 Report. If you're looking to follow the JP8 Report, right beside where the big red button that says join, you see a bell. Click the bell. Go down. You'll scroll down. You'll see the word follow. Click that button, follow, and you'll be a follower of the JP8 Report. And then click the like button, the thumbs up button to give us a like. And then, as you can see, Covite for Life is in the chat room. Give him a little bit of chat. If I see something, I'll comment on it too, either by keyboard or verbally. Most likely it'll be verbally. Things happen, and man, I already wrote this out for this morning, and headline already changed, but it happens. It happens for the morning time, and that stuff is a big thing. So let's get going. America 250. So this happened yesterday in 1776. Thomas Jefferson presented Ben Franklin and John Adams with the first. Let me start that over. On June 21st, 1776, Thomas Jefferson presented Benjamin Franklin and John Adams with the first complete draft of the Declaration of Independence. This milestone set the stage for the birth of a new nation as the Continental Congress moved aggressively toward a total separation from the British Crown. All right? We're 2 weeks away from the 4th of July. So in 2 weeks, they finished their, matter of fact, I think they officially finished it on July 3rd and presented it on July 4th. All right? But so first official draft is done. And Ben Franklin and John Adams saw it first. All right? Armament shop. Yep. Okay. So we have the armament shop, and here we go. Whether you're looking for your first firearm, upgrading your setup, or need expert service, Jason at the Armament Shop is Copper's Cove's premier source for all things shooting. Browse our wide selection of pistols, rifles, and shotguns, backed by top-tier gunsmithing for repairs, along with reloading supplies and professional cleaning to keep your firearm in peak condition. Need a transfer? We make FFL transfers fast, easy, and affordable. Need your CHL? That would be your concealed handgun license. Jason can handle those classes, both in person and online. He has over 3 decades of experience. Visit the Armament Shop today at 115A West Avenue D in Coppers Cove, or call or text at 254-560-2023, or visit them at www.armamentshop.com. That's www.armamentshop.com. The Armament Shop, your safety, our priority. All right. So let me get that. Need this. All right. So onward to the JP8 report. First we have, before we get to that, I'll do the rain update first. Rain update. The first thing I saw last night, and then I saw it in intensive this morning. It was about Lindsey Graham. All right. He was spilling his guts about what he thinks, what he needs, what he wants to see happening, what he thinks President Trump should do about everything going on in Iran. My advice to Senator Lindsey Graham is that you're a moron and you need to keep your mouth shut. All right? Let the president do his job and his advisors do the job with him. Right? And the same thing applies to Chris Christie. I just saw him on Vince. I was watching Vince before this. He did that and much worse. Chris Christie needs to go back to the beach, get in his lawn chair, and get a sunburn. All right? Just leave everything alone. Leave foreign diplomacy for the big people. All right? For the grown-ups. Because y'all two are not grown-ups. All right? Just stay away. All right? The U.S. and Iran agreed to a 60-day roadmap. Talks lasted for 10 hours and are continuing today. Iran will allow IAEA inspectors in their country at all 3 sites and possibly 4 sites, because there was one called Midnight Picks or something like that, or Pickaxe. Well, we know where everything, we know where the skeletons are, literally, right? But Iran agreed to let the IAEA back in their country uninhibited, so they can do their job, right? And then, I'll do the next one in just a minute. All right. Oil prices are up just a little bit. Iran exported 36 million barrels of oil in 6 days. That's one of the things both Lindsey Graham and Chris Christie are both complaining about, that they actually brought money in. You got to feed your people somehow. Hezbollah accuses Israel of a deception and threatens to respond to any ceasefire violations. Israeli defense minister said Israel will not withdraw from Lebanon's security zone. Trump warns Iran to stop with the highly paid proxies in Lebanon. One of the outcomes of the talks from yesterday was there's a deconflicting line that's going to be established between, I believe, DC, Israel, Lebanon, Hezbollah, and Tehran, something like that, right? And the deconflicting line is a hotline, not a line drawn on a map, but an actual telephone line. So if something's happening, they can pick up the line and talk to each other instead of throwing bullets at each other, all right? So that's a real good thing. There's been for the first time since March 2nd, there's been no combat between Israel and Hezbollah. Okay? The Dow Jones opens up in 20 more minutes. It has been closed since Thursday evening because of the Juneteenth holiday on Friday in the United States. And Thursday afternoon closed at 51,564.70. That was up 72.15. West Texas Intermediate is at $75.20 a barrel, and Brent crude oil is at $79.10. All right. So, JP8 report. Okay, so y'all saw the headline. Oh, well, we'll go. Before we do that, tomorrow is the South Carolina runoff for governor between Alan Wilson and Pam Evitt. What you need to know about them two is initially the president endorsed Pam Evitt for governor. She's the current lieutenant governor. That's the one we really want to win the governorship. But the president overnight went ahead and endorsed both Alan Wilson and Pam Evitt because he said both of them are avid MAGA supporters, America First politicians, they will do good for South Carolina. So both of them are acceptable, but he really wants Pam to get elected. So if you live in South Carolina, go vote for Pam, okay? During the 2 weeks ago, um, during their primary, they got within like a point of each other in the mid 20s because there were so many people on the ballot. All right. Next is expect many, many Supreme Court opinions to be released this week. There are still 17 opinions to be replaced, and there's like 3 days left to do it. All right. So expect that what they were saying on the SCOTUS blog, expect tomorrow and expect Thursday. Matter of fact, hold on just a second. While I got you on the air here. Where's the calendar? Let me refresh the calendar. Yeah, on the calendar for the Supreme Court, they have opinions for tomorrow, the 23rd, and on the 25th. So those 2 days will be busy days, okay? All right? Let me get back over here. All right, so far, we got those out of the way. And we got to do this first. Now, I don't know if y'all been watching the news this morning. Former Federal Reserve Chair Alan Greenspan, he died. I did not even know he was still alive. He was very adamant in the Federal Reserve. He led it for like a long time, right? It was Paul Volcker and Alan Greenspan were the movers in the 80s and 90s when it came to the Federal Reserve. I think that's why they limited the Federal Reserve to 2 5-year terms, okay? But he was 100 years old and he died from Parkinson's disease. So what I got here is Alan Greenspan, former chair of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, died on Monday, which is the day, at the age of 100. According to a statement from his wife, Andrea Mitchell, she was NBC news correspondent. Alan passed away at our home this morning at the age of 100 from complications from Parkinson's, which is an absolutely horrible way to go. He was a giant of a man who helped shape the U.S. economy for decades under presidents of both parties, but is always honest in acknowledging his mistakes. She continues, to me, he was my husband who shaped my life on our very first date in 1984. They got married in 1997. Okay. Alan Greenspan visits. That was his, he had a show called The Daily Briefing on Fox News Channel on October. That's a picture. He had the most irrational exuberance for baseball, the Washington Commanders, tennis, golf, music, and especially jazz. He will remember for his brilliance and his kindness. Mitchell noticed being his life partner was my joy of my life. That was awesome. But she talked about him. He was very, very smart, right? And he served in government all the way to 2007. He resigned after the collapse of the economy in 2007, 2008. But he led our Federal Reserve. Him and Paul Volcker led the Federal Reserve all the way through the 80s and 90s and did some really, really awesome work to build our economy, right? So prayers to his wife, Andrea Mitchell, and please be with her and her family in their time of mourning. And remember all the great stuff he did. He was really a great economist, all right? A lot better than Jerome Powell, all right? So the news, here we go. Keir Starmer, he's been prime minister for less than 2 years of England, Great Britain. This morning he announced his intent to resign and that he will be a caretaker prime minister until they elect a new prime minister in Great Britain. So he is the 7th prime minister in 10 years. He won in a landslide election and just destroyed their country. England is nothing like it was just a few years ago, right? So the problem is, in England, they have general elections every 5 years. And I discussed this somewhat on the morning brief a while ago. So every 5 years they have a general election, or you can call what they call snap elections. All right, and the reason being so is that people in Great Britain don't elect their prime minister. Only the people in the parliament does. Okay, they call them MPs, members of parliament, right? So look at it as the election of Speaker of the House, right? The Speaker of the House leads the government, all right? We don't. We have a president and vice president, right? So they would, how do you put it? They convene a majority of the people in the parliament, elect the new prime minister, and he gets other members of parliament to be his foreign minister and defense minister, interior minister, and what other ministries they have inside the country, right? So what happened this last week was that there's this other liberal, Labor Party member, very liberal, very leftist, to the left of Keith Starmer, that got elected, right? And it showed him, he said, it showed him that he was no longer really welcome and he wasn't really leading the party he needed to be. So what they wanted to do was elect a new prime minister and then wait out for the general election a few years from now. So now Nigel Farage, he's a member of Reform UK. He's already calling for snap elections. I mean, elections that would happen within the next 60 days to give a truer assessment of what's going on in England. I know. We're talking about England. We're not talking about the United States, okay? Because these guys are our closest allies. Believe it or not, they are our closest allies. What's going on in England right now is that they had, over the course of the last several weeks, massive turnover in city councils and townships all over England to the Reform UK party. But if they can turn over the party, the prime ministership, to another person in Labour, they can delay those elections, those snap elections, and push it to the general, which gives them time to rebuild the party, right? Stay with me, okay? If I'm making sense, let me know. If you need me to clarify anything, let me know, all right? We have the live chat open. Just send something to me, okay? So this is what I'm going to read right now, right? It'll clarify a little bit of what I was describing to you. Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced Monday that he will resign from following a mounting revolt inside the Labour Party after devastating local election losses. The resignation of government ministers and growing pressure from senior members of his own cabinet. Starmer said he would step down as prime minister and labor leader after concluding he could no longer unite the party, but is expected to remain in office until a successor is chosen. It's called a caretaker. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King. That would be King Charles, not Trump, okay? There's liberals that might be watching. They think Trump is a king. He's not. He's our president. King Charles III is their king. Okay. Uh, uh, Stammer has acknowledged a growing opposition with his own party, saying the question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentarian party to that question, and I accept the answer with good grace. Starmer said he would remain caretaker prime minister until Labor members choose a new leader in the coming weeks. Now, this is where Farage comes in. The announcement followed weeks of turmoil inside of Britain's ruling party after Labour lost roughly 1,500 council seats and control of more than 25 councils in local elections last month, according to people reporting from UK outlets. The losses were fueled by major gains from Nigel Farage's Reform UK party in Labour's traditional strongholds and by Green Party advances in urban areas. Starmer's domestic troubles deepened after a damaging dispute with President Donald Trump. That would be President Trump, not King Trump, for y'all no kings leftists out there. All right. With President Donald Trump over the Iran conflict earlier this year. The British Prime Minister initially resisted U.S. requests to use British bases during the military operations against Iran, prompting Trump to criticize him publicly, saying he is not Winston Churchill that we are dealing with on March 3rd. But after initially drawing a hard line, Starmer later approved limited defensive cooperation with U.S. angering anti-war lawmakers inside his own party, while still failing to satisfy critics who accuse him of indecision and weak leadership. Public frustration over the episode surfaced on YouGov following groups and polling commentary where voters described Starmer as weak, indecisive, and overly reactive to Washington. Okay, I guess YouGov is a British YouTube site. All right, so the crisis escalated after two labor ministers resigned publicly and called for a leadership transition. Jess Phillips resigned from her role as Starmer after Starmer reportedly refused to step aside during a cabinet meeting. Phillips said Labor needs leadership with more gusto and warned the government is failing to deliver the change voters expected, according to The Guardian. And then Mattia Faimbula also resigned and called for what she described as an early transition, according to UK media reports. More than 80 Labour MPs, members of Parliament, called for Stammer to resign. Stephen Swinford, political editor at the New York Times, wrote on X, "What is striking is the fact that they hail from all wings of the party," adding that roughly a third were centrist, while others came from Labour's soft left and hardline factions. All right. So within about, hopefully, Nigel Farage, I'm doing so what I'm talking about. Hopefully now Nigel Farage will get his way, and can't find what I'm looking for. Hold it. So hopefully within 60 days there will either be snap elections or there will be a general election scheduled. Oh, there it is. I forgot to get ready for for the raid when it happens in 35 minutes. So I can finish all my talking and stuff before, and then be ready for the raid. Okay, so I'm all ready. Next, all right. So we'll see something most rickety-tick about Great Britain, whether there'll be snap elections or just a new prime minister, all right? All right, so World Cup action, all right? Mark Wayne Mullen, the Homeland Security Secretary, announced that Iran tried to sneak IRGC tied operatives into the U.S. with their World Cup soccer team. All right, so I got this from Just the News. Grammar, there's some misgrammar in it. They just made a mistake. U.S.-Iran negotiations U.S.-Iran negotiations got off to a rocky start in Switzerland. Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen revealed Sunday that Tehran tried to sneak several military-tied operatives into the U.S. with its World Cup soccer team. Mullen said more than half of the soccer representatives Iran tried to bring with his team had ties to the IRGC, Iraqi Revolutionary Guard Corps, and that even a man posting Saturday as their soccer federation president was tied to extreme military group, and then I've entered into Sunday's match. Okay, that was and even tried to enter and ahead of Sunday's match. I caught that one. The guy that tried to get on the plane yesterday had direct ties to the IRGC. He told that the Maria Bartoloma on Sunday Morning Futures. Okay. We accepted 53 individuals coming in, and the rest of the individuals that Iran tried to bring in also had direct ties to the IRGC and aren't their normal traveling group. So they were trying to bring extra people into the United States. Even though Iran beat Belgium, they beat them 0-0 on a shootout, right? But they were bringing extra people into the company that normally don't travel with the Iranian World Cup team. That presents a big problem, and that's why we have security that takes care of this stuff, right? So Mullen said President Trump expected Iran to sneak bad actors in the country and authorize Homeland to do extreme vetting. The games that Iran plays to make them an adversary that you can't trust, he said. You cannot trust these guys, not one iota. Man, they're trying to sneak people. Why would you think that you were able to sneak people into our country without getting caught? It don't make sense. You're better off trying to escape across the border, which you're going to get caught anyway. It is almost absolutely impossible to sneak into the United States nowadays. All right. So we're done with Iran for right now. We're going to talk about the reflective pool. I got 2 articles here. I'm going to read them both. All right. People, if you did not know, over the weekend, people were caught dumping chemicals into the new reflecting pool that was newly renovated. It was between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. Cost $14.8 million to renovate. And multiple people were caught dumping corrosive chemicals into the reflecting pool. And then people got caught slashing a 250-foot gash into the pool liner, including one that was a former Olympic canoer, a 3-time Olympic canoer that got arrested also. for mischief vandalism, right? We'll get to him in just a minute. So the president, the president said on Friday, right, that said vandals damaged a recently renovated reflecting pool near Lincoln Memorial. The Trump's comments come after recent renovated reflecting pool faced scrutiny over peeling paint and algae growth just weeks after the 14.8 mil restoration was completed. The things were really looking good in our nation's capital, and to add to the fact that when I became president, crime was rampant, and now Washington, D.C. is now one of the safest places anywhere in the United States. However, we've had some problems with vandalism at the beautiful reflecting pool, which sits between Washington Monument and Lincoln Memorial. Just like 3 days ago, they destroyed the grassy area outside the pool. Someone put 8647 in the grass with chemicals to stain the grass. They've also done everything possible to hurt the inside surface that was just installed in the pool. Trump accused vandals of damaging the grounds between the pool. They used chemicals to damage the newly installed surface. No different than the chemical they use on the National Mall. Trump's comments come after a week after someone put 8647 in the grass, which I hope they can repair pretty quick. Administration officials previously characterized the messages as threatening, arguing 86. We know what 8647 means. Trump announced on June 6 that the 14.8 mil restoration project at the historic reflecting pool had been completed. Days later, however, algae appeared throughout the pool, masking portions of the newly restored America blue flag bottom. This week, National Park Service and contractors deployed chemicals and ozone nanobubbles to help mitigate the algae growth. Workers are also used a swimming pool-style vacuum system to remove algae from the bottom of the pool. There are no harmful side effects to marine life or to the environment. Trump said most of the algae had been removed and that the vandalized areas would be repaired next week, which would be this week. The algae is 75% gone and condition of the pool will be completely remedied, and the area was vandalized. Fortunately, it's just a small area damage and will be fixed this week. All right. So to continue on with this, so hold on just a second. All righty. Multiple people have been arrested this week, and this is 2 days ago. This is Saturday, because I really wanted this one. Multiple people have been arrested this weekend after allegedly vandalizing the newly refurbished Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, prompting a strong response by President Trump. Let's see. Okay, I can read this part. The president alleged suspects poured corrosive and destructive chemicals into the basin. It hasn't looked or worked like this since 1922 when it was originally built, but even then, it leaked bad and didn't work. He wrote in a post. Ours worked perfectly, including the mirror-like finish, perfectly reflecting the two great monuments, which is never had before. What these terrible vandals had done is truly an affront to both Presidents George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and should be dealt with accordingly. Trump said administration officials met with contractors Saturday and will likely need to drain much of the water in order to make necessary repairs. It is unclear if the contractors mentioned are the same ones initially employed to carry out the renovations. We have done them as quickly as possible. What they have damaged does not even include the earlier killing of the large amount of grass, which was by far the least of it. The reflecting pool was never so beautiful than it was 1 week ago. And going back to 1922 when it was open, we are very proud of what we've done with this magnificent structure, and we will get it repaired. The announcement came after the administration faced scrutiny over peeling paint and algae growth. Wonder why, right? Trump did not specify who was responsible for the gash in the lining and suspicion peeling. Multiple arrests were documented over the weekend by local reporters. Okay, here we go. Journalist Emily Miller posted a 2-minute video on X Friday morning showing a man in a lime green racing gear questioning a National Guardsman before being handcuffed by U.S. Park Police. The Washington Post later identified the man in Miller's video as David Hearn, a 3-time Olympian who was arrested on a misdemeanor charge of destruction of government property. Hearn told the outlet he had just finished a 52-mile bike ride, and he noticed a partially detached piece of the new pool liner and reached into the water to see what it felt like. The Bethesda, Maryland native told the Associated Press he owns a company that made composites used to build watercraft, while Miller was claimed to, in her post, that Hearn grabbed a hose that the National Park Service workers were using to remediate algae growth. Hearn told the Washington Post that the hose may have touched his bike tire. I didn't vandalize anything. He just happened to complete a 52-mile bike ride in front of the reflecting pool at the spot where he said that he noticed something was sticking up out of the water. I believe the reflecting pool liner starts 2 feet underneath the surface, right? So just like finding seashells on a seashore with James Comey, this guy just happened to find a pool liner sticking up out of the water in the reflecting pool and decided to self-report it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all, right? So Hearn, who was arrested in 1996 on charges of canoeing in the Potomac River, said, I didn't destroy, break, or peel anything. By the time I realized what was happening, I was already being handcuffed. Miller reported that 7 people were detained Friday, 5 people were detained Saturday in separate incidences, which led to a major security surge. In Truth Social on Saturday, Trump questioned who would do such a thing. These are serious crimes that need to be dealt with the national monuments. And that's all for that one. All right. So at least 12 or 13 people have been arrested for vandalizing the reflecting pool with either chemicals or slash a 200 and I think 75-foot gash in the pool liner, right? Then they use the same argument to condemn the president for renovating the pool, knowing that him and his contractors had no bearing in the damage that they caused and wanted to try to exploit and blame Republicans for it. All right. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? Come on, people. All right. Give me a like in here. All righty. So next, Liddy Lee. All right. She used to be a Democrat, and she was a prolific fundraiser for the Biden administration. All right. She said she is writing a book. All right. And in said book, she's going to expose the Democrats who covered up Biden's cognitive decline, right? We all know that. We saw that Friday. I mean, who here watched the Barack Obama, not Friday, but watched on Thursday the Barack Obama dedication of his 800 and $850 million piece of rock. Okay, we'll put it like that. So, if you didn't know, Biden approached the microphone toward the end of the program and took his sunglasses off and yelled into the microphone, "Where's my daughter?" and aimlessly wandering around the stage like he has dementia, which, for all intents and purposes, probably does and needs to be taken care of, right? I've already dealt with my stepmom having, not my stepmom, my mom having dementia and my mother-in-law having dementia. I know what it is, right? So Miss Lee, she's a Democrat, former Democrat fundraiser, and switched to becoming a Republican. Is writing a book about the party over unheated. Man, I'm having a hard time breathing this morning. Whatever was out there, it wasn't the truth. They wanted they wanted him to go. Also in my book, I was telling people exactly who was aware of Biden's cognitive decline, but pretended otherwise because he didn't have the power. Barack Obama had the power. Let's see. Lee, who is publishing a new book called Unburdened later this year, adds to the picture of internal discussions, the research of the panic behind the scenes of the Democrat Party, indicating Biden enjoyed only shaky support among even his own camp before he ultimately dropped out of the 2024 election. Above all, Lee said she was shocked by some of the party's leading figures who expressed reservations behind the scenes about Biden's decline, but remained staunch defenders of the president in public because he didn't want to lose the power, right? I remember getting a text from Schiff, Lee said, referring to Adam Schiff, then a Democrat candidate for the Senate and top of the Democrats in the House of Representatives. I have it in my book. Basically, Adam Schiff I can't remember what he said on TV, but I'm telling you right now that behind the scenes very much wanted Biden to go. A spokesman for Schiff responded to Lee's claims, noting that the senator had made his doubts about Biden known publicly after the debate, but she's talking about before. Even beyond Schiff, Lee, who ran a formidable fundraising operation for the party and was connected to a wide swath of his figures, said that many figures who were hesitant about Biden's cognitive abilities were afraid of putting themselves in the path of his political momentum. They didn't want to get ostracized by the party, i.e., power, right? Lee said the fear was bolstered by internal research the party had done, indicating that no one else inside the party had the capital to challenge Biden. There were so many candidates who polled themselves against Biden and realized they couldn't beat him in a primary if it wasn't a matter so much of the anti-Trumpism, it was a self-interest. She said, "I've seen the polling data, and I also include that in my book. Polling no one else has seen before, but you got to buy the book first. I mean, is she just trying to sell paper, or is she trying to sell news? And sometimes it's one and the same, but I think she's just trying to sell a book. All right." A judge declared they had better things to do. Yeah. Okay. So a federal judge has rejected Joe Biden's bid to keep the Justice Department from releasing recorded conversations with his biographer a decade ago that would be before he became president. Remember that. That prosecutors could use to conclude the former president improperly shared classified information with the author. U.S. District Judge Dabney Frederick ruled that the public's interest in the information outweighed Biden's privacy rights in seeking a preliminary injunction to block the release of transcripts and recordings to the conservative watchdog group, the Oversight Project, which is affiliated with the Heritage Foundation. The judge noted she reviewed the transcripts and the conversations with Arthur Mark Zonewicker and found that the DOJ had deleted all information about Biden's family and personal matters. The harm to Biden's diminished privacy interests is outweighed by the public's interest in the Zonweitzer materials, Frederick wrote. It as now redacted, the Zonweitzer materials contain no information about Biden's family or other private persons. And while public figures maintain privacy acts, the department did not abuse its discretion in finding that nothing in the remaining Zonweitzer materials is sensitive enough to outweigh the public's unusually strong interest. The judge, an appointee of President Trump, gave Biden time, however, to lodge an appeal, delaying any release by at least 3 weeks. Special counsel Robert Hur obtained the recordings in 2023 as part of the probe, and that concluded Biden shared classified materials with Mark Zonecker in 2017. That's 4 years before he became president. The prosecutor, however, declined to bring charges. The problem with all this is only the president can declassify materials, right? Other than that, it's got to be declassified on the local level. He had classified materials in his garage that were not declassified. So this is what they're getting at. So is he going to be indicted for what he did before? I don't know why he just didn't pardon himself before he left office for this. He should have. But they're going to release his recording so we can actually hear his voice telling his story, which involves classified information. All right? So, also, speeding along, "107 years ago, President Teddy Roosevelt passed away." All right? 107 years ago. Teddy Roosevelt was one of the presidents that does not have a presidential library until now. His costs half as much as what Barack Obama's costs, right? So it is located in Medora, North Dakota. It'll be opened to the public on July 4th this year on our semi-quincentennial celebration of our country. It's 96,000 square feet. Uh, let's see, the Teddy Roosevelt or Theodore Roosevelt. You know, his son got the Medal of Honor. He received the Medal of Honor for San Juan Hill, Puerto Rico, and his son Theodore Roosevelt Jr. received the Medal of Honor for his actions on Utah Beach in World War II. If you didn't know, okay. It's set to open July 4th in Medora, North Dakota, part of the state's notoriously rugged Badlands, where the 26th president uh, lived before entering the White House. Uh, Nature is transformative here. It transformed Theodore Roosevelt. It will transform new visitors to this library. Architect Craig Dykers told CBS News for a preview story on the library that aired yesterday. Okay. We've wanted something like this to just felt primitive. And so this form emerging from the earth is like it's just arrived from the earth. Roosevelt was a native New Yorker but moved to North Dakota in 1884 to grieve the same day, Valentine's. Okay. Oh, okay. Roosevelt was a native New Yorker, but he moved to North Dakota in 1884 to grieve the same day, Valentine's Day deaths of his wife and mother. Okay, I understand now. He then spent roughly 2 years working in the region as a cowboy. And the library cost $450 million, not $850 million. Roosevelt was a member of the Republican Party until 1912. Then he left to run under his own banner called the Progressive Party, but he got beat. In 1912, he got beat by Woodrow Wilson, who became president from 1912 to 1920. The library has taken possession of a statue, Roosevelt, that was removed in 2022 from outside the American Museum of Natural History in New York. Critics argued the message of a white man elevated above both Native American and Africans symbolized racial superiority. Really. That's why they removed the statue in New York City. But they didn't destroy it, and now it's located in North Dakota at the Theodore Roosevelt Museum, Presidential Museum. That would be awesome to go see, because that man lived the life. They could have made a miniseries. Oh, they have. All right. So what are we looking at? It was 8:52. Man, which one do I want to read? Okay, so Anthony Fauci, one each. So late last week, Tulsi Gabbard left as the DNI, right? Director of National Intelligence. She released a whole lot of material implicating Anthony Fauci knew about the BSL 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s that were being fully funded around the world outside of the United States with $30 billion worth of supplies, right? So, and he received a pardon, an auto pen pardon from the president. So people are even questioning if that's even legitimate. But he still received the pardon. But if he goes before Congress and lies, that pardon is null and void because he still lied again under oath. The year after COVID-19 pandemic reached the United States, a U.S. intelligence official flagged a video circulating online showing a government-funded scientist admitting publicly that his colleagues in China had manipulated spike proteins on coronaviruses. During that time, leading health official Anthony Fauci continued to double down on his claim his office had not funded gain-of-function research in the Wuhan lab in China, where scientists conducted search experiments. Fauci's apparatus also ruthlessly cracked down on questions around the origins of COVID-19, seeking to discredit theories that people have escaped containment of the laboratory accident. Said, hey guys, it says, quote, hey guys, just saw this video online, unquote. And IC, as I said last week, IC is intelligence community, wrote in an email to colleagues. The email was released in a new batch of COVID-19 documents declassified by DNI Tulsi Gabbard right before she left. It's from 2016, 4 years before COVID, New York Academy of Medicine meeting where Dzonek talks about his colleagues in China manipulating spike proteins of coronavirus to make them more virulent. In the video, which was posted online streaming platform Rumble, which is what we're on, right? Dr. Peter Daszak explained how his colleagues in China grafted spike proteins who discovered coronaviruses onto pseudoparticles in order to test. I need my daughter in there because she's a geneticist. We found other coronaviruses in bats. Some looked very familiar to SARS. So we sequenced the spike protein, the protein that attaches the cells, and then I didn't do the same work. My colleagues in China did the work. You create pseudoparticles. You insert the spike proteins from the viruses to see if they bind with human cells. Oh man, really? And each step you take moves you closer and closer to this virus could really become pathogenic in people. This is ridiculous. He knew about this and didn't say nothing. Didn't do nothing to stop it. Unbelievable. I'm going to have to save the rest of this for tomorrow. All right. All right. Lots of stuff happening. I know, like I said, tomorrow's going to be Supreme Court rulings after the podcast's over. But look at what's going on in Geneva, Switzerland right now between the U.S. and Iran talking their issues out. This is how the process was supposed to play along. This memo was geared toward 60 days worth of discussions to a pathway to peace, not like what Chris Christie and Lindsey Graham and Mike Pence and this whole slew of other people condemning the president on stuff. We're trying to get it. So sometimes in war, you just can't browbeat everybody. Sometimes you come to a negotiating end. Someone needs to explain this to the Russians and Ukrainians, but we'll get to the end of it, all right? But they're talking through this. Give them a chance and pray that Hezbollah and Israel don't lock horns again and that this hotline works, all right? A couple things that are happening around here is Saturday in Gatesville, Texas, is Coryell County Republican Women. They're meeting at 9:30 on Saturday at the feed mill. They'll have a speaker there. And then on Tuesday, June 30th, we have our organization meeting with Coryell County Republican Party with precinct chairs like myself and I think 12 others, along with our new party chair, or not our returning party chair, Norm Mitchell. We're going to organize a party, get new secretary, new vice chair, new treasurer. They could be the same ones too, but we're going to vote on them and get them all situated, right? And that's going to happen at 6 p.m. at Trinity Worship Center. And that's all I have for right now. It's 8:59, and let me see on my watch. We have 30 seconds till Bongino starts, so I'm going to initiate the raid. I'm going to go ahead and put my transition screen up, and I will catch you on the flip side tomorrow morning with the morning brief at 6:30 a.m. Central Time, and then the JPA report at 8 a.m. Central Time. All right. So I will catch you on the flip side. I'm out. 5 seconds to Bongino.